Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is the Thursday Night Bets, NFL Bets edition of the podcast. Welcome back. If you've joined us before, welcome. If you're a newcomer, this is a sports betting podcast called the Overrated Experience because you might guess it. We like the overs. And that's what kind of makes us an in-between square and in-between sharp betting podcast. A sharp wants to use analytics. He wants to use logic and reason to place his wagers. I try to do the best I can on that. But the square bettor gets caught up in the emotion, the intensity, the action. And I can't lie, that's me as well. So welcome to the Overrated Experience. You can follow us on X at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Let's get her going. Well, first, before we get her going and talk about the Thursday Nighter in the NFL, I'll let you know that this podcast originates from the city of Toronto, and we're celebrating a Toronto Blue Jays victory over the New York Yankees, knocking off the Bronx Bombers to head to the American League Championship Series, awaiting the winner of the Seattle Mariners and the Detroit Tigers. I'm sure we could talk betting on that all day because that's what we like to do. But this focus is going to be NFL action, and we're going to kick it off talking about the results from last week, week 5 of the NFL. We had a pretty good over-under week, 10 for 14. So listen in, listen tight, and write it down when I talk about some over-unders. Again, the podcast name is based on the concept that we like overs. So we did pretty good on that last week, 10 for 14, not bad. Spread, 8 for 14, and okay, so just over 500 on that one. What stands out to me this week that just passed that's worth talking about, and this is kind of the entire picture on the life of a gambler, the life of a sports bettor, and that was what we saw when the Tennessee Titans went to Arizona. And if you have not seen how the Arizona Cardinals pissed away this game, please go back and watch. There are times in my life, there are times in my betting career where certain losses have really affected me, where when you're watching the replays of the multiple fuck-ups, that if you watch that replay long enough, will it change? Will that scenario where, running back for Arizona Cardinals, 76, 78-yard touchdown, decides not to drop the goddamn ball before he crosses the line, which is absolutely ridiculous. Can't believe we've seen that. Again, we go into the end zone and you flick the ball, ready to celebrate, and then replay states that you lost possession of the ball goes to the end zone, and that started almost like what would you call it? A crumbling, the piece of the puzzle being taken away, your legs being taken out, and from there, after Tennessee gets the ball back, Cam Ward rolls out, throws an interception. The defender falls on the ground. He, without being touched, fumbles the ball. 2 defenders for the Cardinals come over to try to retrieve the fumble. They actually kick it into the end zone and then allow Tennessee to drop on the ball for a touchdown, making it only now a 2-point lead. Then you add in a turnover. I can't recall when it happened. That's so far last from Sunday. Right off Kyler Murray's mask off a snap, and then allowing Tennessee to drive so that they can kick a last-second field goal. Absolutely disgusting. Gannon coach gets fined $100,000 from the Cardinals for striking the running back who screwed up. Can't do that. I understand why he did it. Can't accept it. Can't justify it. Can't touch your players. But, you know why he did it. Again, not justifying it, just thinking that we all want to do that if that happened, but you just can't do it. Sickening. Absolutely sickening. And that, I think, takes a franchise back a step. This Cardinal team was teetering on being a mid-road type of team. 2-2. Should be getting wins over teams like Tennessee, especially at home. And they absolutely pissed this game away. That was one of the most ugly situations I've seen. It messed my teaser, another parlay I had. Thought I was getting paid out. Even took my attention away from this game. And they did a double take when I'm looking at the fourth quarter that the Titans had gone gone within 2 points of the Arizona. Just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So that really hit me in the pocketbook there. Didn't throw my weekend off, disastrous, but see, the ironic part is tonight, this is the square part of me, is I took this crazy parlay where I had the Tigers, Mariners over 6.5, no problem, that skyrocketed over. I had NHL kickoff, Leafs, Habs, over 4.5, alternative line, no problem, 5-2 finish there. And then I took the Jays Yankees, the game I just talked about where the Jays have knocked off the New York Yankees. I had it at over 6.5, and it took to the bottom of the ninth inning. Yankees down 5-1. Aaron Judge at the plate, runner at second base, 0-2, and he hits a double off the wall. Like, you get fucked over one way, and suddenly you get luck your way, and you get circumstances that are low percentage odds of you recovering, and it comes through for you. You always forget those, but remember those bad beats. So bad beat, and now this one was kind of a miracle comeback for this guy here. So going into the props, we were 6 for 10. Some we were amazing on. I like the Baker Mayfield and Jaden Daniels total yards, passing and receiving plus those two together. No problem. They went above. Jared Goff, passing yards. He smoked the line, and a couple losses. Just didn't call it right. Daniel Jones had a successful day against the shitty Raiders, but could not put up the passing yards. But when it gets ugly like that, the team's going to want to keep it on the ground. Those are the kind of plays that didn't work out, but had a pretty successful day. Outside of that, I'll just give you another example where I lost, so I don't look like I'm just gloating on the things I did win on. Daniel Jones lost passing yards. Also, Pickens, wide receiver for the Cowboys, did not go over 52.5 yards. I think he only had 2 receptions. He had one long one, so he was 50+, but did not reach the 72.5, which was surprising as the Cowboys blew out the Jets. Hit on Baker, as I said, Jaden Daniels, and Goff, whatever. And the last note here, wrapping up week 5, is I was absolutely shocked on Monday watching the Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs for 3.5 quarters. And, the Jaguars were... Am I saying that correctly? The Jags. I'm going to just go with Jags. So the Jags stuck in that game. Trevor Lawrence made a mistake, reaching for a touchdown at the goal line earlier, giving up a fumble. The Jags D came through big time, big return for a touchdown. Patty Mahomes was still dealing. But it really impressed me with under 2 minutes, the 2-minute drive, where Trevor Lawrence made some tough throws. He made some tough runs, but he had it on a string. Bullet pass to Brian Thomas Jr., on a key, I think it was 3rd down, for a first down. Absolutely non-Trevor Lawrence-like, at least in his NFL days. And he made another throw which was un-Trevor Lawrence-like. And it's shocking that, you got to give credit where credit's due. And he played like a franchise quarterback for those 2 minutes, which resulted in a goofy win because if you've seen how they scored the winning touchdown, he steps back, his guard steps on his foot, he falls twice, but still gets up and rolls to the end zone to score the winning touchdown. So pretty impressive there for that 2 minutes. And maybe, just maybe, is Trevor Lawrence turning a corner? I don't know. We'll see. But impressive to say the least. Now, news since week 5 concluded, heading into week 6, one being that we had a trade in the NFL. The Cincinnati Bengals went out interdivision, swapped late round picks with the Cleveland Browns to pick up Joe Flacco, quarterback, for what was the Cleveland Browns now going into Cincinnati. But doesn't stop there. They've already announced that Joe Flacco is going to start against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. Days, minutes, hours after, making the trade, he's our guy. He's going to be in the lineup. He's going to be taking snaps right away. Now, what do I think of that? Well, I think it's a bold, ballsy move by Taylor, head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. Smart, because I'll tell you what, the Cincinnati Bengals are going nowhere. You might say, hey, doesn't know the playbook. Is he taking a risk? There is no risk. Jake Browning has been absolutely horrible for the Cincinnati Bengals. You have too many weapons on the Cincinnati Bengals team, too many Ferraris, too many Corvettes, too many just high-end talent to leave them with the shit that was Jake Browning. Now, I didn't see this drop off to this extent coming, as Browning's been under there before, as Joe Burrow's been out 2 seasons ago, and he was decent. He's been well below decent in his multiple starts with the Bengals, and it's smart, ballsy, and don't wait. You can't do worse by putting Joe Flacco in on a few days' notice. So that's an interesting note. We'll see what happens there. Shedeur Sanders, just another, we talked about him last week and kind of his reaction to Dillon Gabriel being the starter now that Joe Flacco was benched, now gone. And the question was to Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns head coach, does that make Shedeur your number 2? And he kind of danced around it. He didn't acknowledge that Shedeur was number 2. So it's interesting what is going on there. There was nobody putting a gun to the head of what? Had to kill a fly. Sorry, mid-podcast. Nobody put a gun to the head of the Cleveland Browns to draft the second quarterback in the same draft that they picked up Dillon Gabriel, but they did. And as soon as they decided to pick up Shedeur Sanders, he was always going to be a story, right? Because he's a name. He played in Colorado with his dad. He made a name for himself. He was projected potentially to be a first-round pick, early first-round pick, and slid. That was a story in itself. And now you're dancing around if he's number 2. I mean, I don't know if they're handling it the best way they possibly can. I know that they have to do what they need to do, but they've created this whole mess themselves. And I don't know what they're doing. So it'd be very interesting if they wind up bringing a practice squad quarterback to be number 2, even though he was number 3, and he just didn't move up the depth chart. They bring in somebody off the practice squad, maybe because it's a veteran. I don't know what they're doing. Cleveland is a little messed up, as you might notice already. Well, anyway, that's the past. This is the future. This is the future going into Thursday night. And to let you know, there will be another podcast dropped either Friday or Saturday. And that will cover all of Sunday's action, plus Monday, 2 games to Monday. And that will give you spread, over-under, like I said, 10 out of 16 over-under. Pay attention. And player props. I can't give you a lock-in amount that I'll provide you on player props. Whatever stands out to me, I will provide. What's the prop I provide over 4.5? I'm just kidding. Anyway, going into Thursday night, we have the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a loss against the Denver Broncos, taking on the New York Giants. The Giants also coming off a loss. The excitement of Jackson Dart, the excitement of a win, first win of the season, dashed and put out that fire going into New Orleans, and then they lose and didn't look great. Didn't look horrible, but Jackson Dart looked like a rookie quarterback. Let's say that. Fumbles, turnovers, can't get the ball in the air. Quick out of the pocket to run. A lot of things that rookies do, but he's there to develop. So what do we got coming into this week? Well, we also have an Eagles team that has to keep A.J. Brown happy. Will that factor into my props? Find out. Listen, 2 minutes from now, you'll understand. So 7.5 is the line here. Philadelphia Eagles, our favorite divisional matchup heading into MetLife Stadium. And the over-under is a low 40.5. So what do we expect to play here? Eagles are 4-1, right? But, there's a bit of panic here. Like I said, you have A.J. Brown, who's kind of a distraction, I guess you would say, for this team. 4-0 before this loss. He was already upset that he was not receiving the attention, the volume that a custom top receiver would get. He's got a point. I mean, if you got a Ferrari, you drive it. If you got a Corvette, you drive it. And as a receiver, there's nothing much you can do unless the ball is thrown your direction. So many times in the history of watching the NFL, from Randy Moss to Ocho Cinco to Michael Irvin, to who else is out there, like top guys. They want the ball. Even Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they want the ball, and they'll make it known when they're not getting the ball or they don't feel like getting the ball enough, and that's what A.J. Brown's doing. The Eagles got to balance all these relationships. They're a high-profile team. So what do they do coming into this weekend? I got to believe that the objective here is they got to believe that they got to open it up a little bit, right? Even Saquon has really not put together a dominant game like we've seen last year to make him the offensive player of the year. I don't think he's had 100-plus rushing yards. And I got to believe the first priority is to get the ball in his hands. So I do like him more from a receiving perspective. And last week he scored a 57, 58-yard touchdown out of the backfield via pass. And right now his receiving yards are only 16.5, minus 114. I like the over. I think it's way too low. And I think the Eagles have realized that I have to make Saquon a part of this offense. And if it's not running the ball, I'm going to get the ball in his hands one way or another. And with this Giants D-line, even rookie Abdul Carter having a successful rookie campaign, they're going to provide pressure to Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is going to have the run-pass option, a lot of dump-offs. I think a lot of design plays like we've seen against Denver that puts the ball in Saquon's hands multiple times. And I think he breezes over the 16.5, at least on one play and one play alone, much less multiple balls heading his way. So he'll be the focal point. And will Brown be the focal point? No. I think there's problems there. I don't think it's going to be fixed on Thursday. And I don't know if we're going to see Brown really necessarily squash his displeasure for what volume he's getting. But I do think his counterpart there, Devontae Smith, will be a focal point once again, 100-plus yards in the loss against Denver. His over-under here, 50.5, minus 114. I like this to go over. I think Devontae Smith is a big-time receiver. Obviously he was a Heisman Trophy winner for Alabama. Am I right on that? Yeah, Devontae Smith? Yeah, he was. Heisman, yes. Wow, I'm drawing a blank here. If I only had the technology to check this, that'd be great. So I think he's going to be the factor in this matchup. I don't think we're going to see as much Brown as you might think. And we're going to have drama that A.J. Brown's going to bring up once again for the Eagles. But the Eagles get it done. They cover that 7.5. I think they win this game comfortably. I think they do want to put the ball in the air a little more. And I think it's going to go over 40.5. I think the Giants will score their 14 points, whatever it may be. Let's call it like 30-14. And the Eagles get it done. They cover the spread. And one last prop for you on this one. I do like Jackson Dart rushing yards over 35.5. He is in the part of his career right now in the NFL where he is going to quickly drop back. And if something's not there, he's going to make the safe play and take off and run. And the last two games, he's had 50-plus yards rushing himself. And when I see a line of 35.5 for Jackson Dart, I'm going to take the over. So to recap, the props on there, Devontae Smith receiving over 50.5. A.J. Brown, like I said, I'm not trusting that they will feed him the ball tomorrow. Saquon over 16.5 receiving against his former teammates. He tore them up last year, but I just can't buy that he's going to tear them up again this year based on what we're seeing so far this year. And plus that D-line is much improved for the Giants this year. And then Jackson Dart over 35.5 yards rushing. And then I got your same game parlay. You degenerates, you degenerate sons of bitches, know that you shouldn't be doing the same game parlays. But every sports book that you're involved in, including FanDuel, where these lines are coming from, they throw everything at you to incentivize you to make that sucker's bet and do the same game parlay. I fall into the same trap when it talks about a 50% bonus or boost, I get caught up in it. I got to do it, right? but I'm just as degenerate as you are when it comes to those same game parlays. But we should know better, but we don't. All right? But if we got to do it, let me give you some advice. So in this game, and I'm always going to give you a plus. Okay, I'm going to give you a plus. Same game parlay. This one I got 3 legs in this parlay. Eagles money line. I don't think there's a question that the Eagles win this game. I don't think we see a surprise win like we did last week with San Francisco walking to LA and knocking off the Rams with all those injuries. Dallas Goedert, alternative receptions over 3+ or more, tight end for the Eagles. Like I said, that Giants D-line is no joke. And Dallas Goedert is going to be the best friend of Jalen Hurts. Reliable receiver. Short passage yardage, at least 3 minimum. And then throw in Saquon 10 yards, alternate receiving total, 10 or more yards receiving. I like it. I like it a lot. $100 will pay you a profit of $128. Well, like I said, this is the Thursday Bet Show. This is the NFL Thursday Bet Show. It doesn't last long. I'm going to sit back and watch the celebration that is here in Toronto with the Blue Jays heading to the American League Championship Series. I'm going to wish you the best of luck, and I'm going to outright demand that you guys follow us on X and let us know you're there at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Follow the podcast on your provider so you know every time an episode drops, and we're dropping one soon. And we're also going to drop one in the near future that covers the Netflix series about the Dallas Cowboys. Interesting series that I just wrapped up. So we'll get to that. So stay tuned. Pleasure's all been yours. The Overrated experience is over and out. Happy Thanksgiving, Canadians out there. Bye-bye.